Today we're at the historic St. Thomas Anglican Cemetery on Grand River Line, probably about 150 feet from the mighty Thames River here. We're going to meet with Cara Reaume today. She's going to share some of the inner workings and some really interesting history. Cara, can you share with us a couple of the ins and outs of this cemetery? Is it a public cemetery? Is it a private cemetery? How does that work?
Well, it's through St. Thomas Anglican Church, Dover Township. We're run under, we are our sister church with Holy Trinity in Chatham.
Oh, okay.
Reverend C.J. Adams has just come to us recently. This parcel of land was bequeathed to the diocese from Anne Smith, who originally had this property. Well, not originally, it had passed hands several times.
Sure.
We talked earlier about Tecumseh had certainly used the path down at the river, had stopped in this area. And then it got changed hands to Sarah Anise, and then there was a dispute, the land dispute back then. So then it has changed hands, but it ended up with the Smiths.
Okay.
And the Anne Smith was the one who bequeathed it to the diocese.
Okay. Well, I notice as we walk around here, like every cemetery, it tells the story of the passage of time, different styles of stones. You can see the older ones, the newer ones, but I see a lot of similar names. You find it's a lot of the same families that continue to use this?
It is. Originally, there was 15 families that Anne Smith had asked to take care of this property when she passed.
Okay.
And then later on, it gathered to 30 families. But those 30 families, the names are in this cemetery.
Excellent.
So there's a lot of history here in those terms.
So you've mentioned history. You kind of touched on it. This piece of acreage that we're on is right beside. We're literally just right across the street from the Thames River, which used to be the highway.
Yes.
The highway. So there was people that were stationed here. You said at one point, like during the War of 1812 era.
Yes. I don't want to pronounce the name wrong.
Okay.
Adawanane.
Okay.
That was the original native group that passed through here.
Okay.
So,
okay.
But
wow.
they came with people from all over the place. So,
Sure.
Yeah, and the very first at the very front up there, Nicholas Ballard, he was the very first burial here, and it was just called the burying ground at that time.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because it wasn't church yet.
Sure.
But then after the church was built in 1875, the first legitimately burial with a minister was a young 4-month-old child.
Oh wow.
So
wow.
And that was in 1883.
So you'd call that technically like the first official.
The first
formal...
official. It's down on records, whereas the records from before were all lost.
Sure, of course.
But of course, we've done so much history checking out these things that we have concluded that Nicholas Ballard was the first one.
Right. Well, what if we could take a walk over to the actual church here?
Sure. Property was bought by Thomas and Martha Smith, and they passed away, but they had 2 daughters, Mary Smith and Anne Smith. And one night they went out to get the cattle, and there was a snowstorm that came up, and the girls got lost. They lost their bearings, and the families from the surrounding area sent out people to look for them, and they found Mary had already passed, but they found Anne was underneath Mary. And so she survived, but she had to have her legs amputated because the frostbite was so bad. So then Anne stayed at the Smith homestead, which is on this area, until she was 72 years old. And at that time, Anne bequeathed this whole area to the diocese. And one of the ideals that she really wanted was that this church to be built over their family plot. And that's exactly what has happened. So the family is underneath the front of the church, protected. And that's the history of this church.
You ladies said a couple statements that they really remind people that when you had said things like it was a privilege, it's an honor to be here to serve this way, to take care of this place. Where some people that have become kind of detached from cemeteries, that's foreign language. People think like there's sacred places, and this is a sacred place for you guys.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Glenda said, we grew up here. You know, our families we're all connected.
Yeah.
And it's an absolute privilege and an honor to, you know, even just to be here.
Yeah.
Not even the taking care of the grounds. It's just to be here. And if you have to, you know, inter someone, it's honorable because it's
sure.
their last step of their life. And
Yeah, that's right.
you know all about that.
Yeah,
so.
that's right.
Yeah.